I've often been referred to as a storm in a teacup. That's my bio and my Tinder profile and Bumble profile. So
yeah, a lot of people are like that too. But I think you're one of the most misunderstood people.
Really?
Out there. Yeah.
Oh my God, talk me through this.
I just think it's more so to do with the level of influence that you had. So I mean, look, when I was going through and doing questions, I think there's five or six key things that have happened to you that have really defined who you are. And one of those was obviously becoming an influencer, but it was really Big Brother that made that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And Big Brother is a double-edged sword for everyone who does it. It's not just for Tully, it's for the people who, when I'm reading an article about Tully and it says, you know, Tully was at this event, and then down below it's like, look at Brie Amer, what is she doing with her life now? Look, you know, like all that sort of stuff. It makes you a household name, but it also opens you up for people to just pile on. And I think, you know, as you were saying to me off air, a lot of the criticism you've gotten isn't, I don't think it's really, it's not fair. It's always for a very small situation.
Yeah, I think that it's a bizarre thing to think about the fact that, you know...
Like, it's very micro. It's not the macro of Tully's life. It's just like, this thing that happened for...
I will forever...
less than 1% of her life defines her.
Yeah, and that's terrifying, and that's something that's taken me a long time to come to terms with and be okay with, because it feels unfair. And statistically, it's not right. You know, to judge someone based off one thing they did 6 years ago, it just seems ludicrous. But that's unfortunately the case for me, and it's something that I've had to come to terms with and make peace with, because I will forever be known for that, and I will forever be held accountable to my actions as a 25-year-old.
Yeah, but also what I think is quite interesting is it's become like a weapon for you now. Like, you wear it in your armor, if that makes sense. Like, if someone says that, or if you see an article, I got to send, like, you are more forthcoming in talking about it than people are themselves.
Yeah, that's probably my line of defense. I sort of think if I beat them to it, maybe they'll go gentle with me. I think also...
But not a lot of people do that.
Well, so. it was a very conscious decision when I was evicted from Big Brother. I guess you could have taken what happened with me two ways, you know, and I think I've seen a lot of people since, not for the exact same circumstance, but for other circumstances, come out of a show like that and put their hands in the air and say, oh, you know, it was the editing. I'm not really like that. You know, a lot of Married at First Sight people say, oh, you know, it was all cut and changed and they put words in my mouth and we hadn't slept all night and blah, blah, blah. And I get that. I'm not saying that's not true. I know that that's how these things work. But it was very important to me, and it was never a decision. I never sat down there and thought, how am I going to play this? In my point of view, there was no other way of doing it, and that was that I was going to come out and I was going to cop it all. I'd made my bed and I was going to lie in it, and I never wanted it to go any other way. You know, the producers of the show and the network offered me all these sort of safety lines and safety nets and ways out. You know, they said, well, we can cancel your radio. Every evictee is supposed to do the footy show appearance. They went ahead and cancelled that without even asking me, because they were trying to protect me. And I said, no, I want to do all my radio interviews. And then when I did the interviews and they said, oh, you know, so, you know, what do you think you did and do you own up to it? I said, yeah. I said, I fucked up. I said, I'm not a shitty human being, but I did a shitty thing. And it was all me.
But that's why you've survived it, though. Because so many people, like, this is the thing that I look at it like the archetypical hero's journey, right? Like, you have sort of a situation and it's bad and you fall down and something happens and people are piling on. But in your case, you actually admitted that you were wrong. Whereas a lot of people just sort of clamp up. No one hears from them. They do no media.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that you did that was probably one of the smartest things that you did, because people couldn't own that over you. You did. You took responsibility for it. And so it's, yes, the Daily Mails, the glossy mags of the world will talk about it, but I don't think it's really the defining feature anymore. I
mean, I hope not. And I think that's very kind of you to say so. But if I'm being completely honest and frank, I mean, wasn't I just doing that to make myself feel better? I think that I felt like I needed to make penance. I needed to be punished. I felt really, really bad and I felt really, really guilty, and I was not proud of my actions. And I think me coming out and putting my hand up and saying, yep, I stuffed up, I'm the bad guy, I deserve whatever you're going to throw at me. In a way, I was trying to level the playing field. I was trying to say, yeah, I fucked up, and I deserve to be ridiculed. I deserve to be trolled. I deserve to be pulled apart in the media. I deserve it all. And I think that to this day, I still think, when I get the occasional remark or someone decides to leave a nasty comment, I sit there and I go, fuck, fair enough.
But that's what I mean, though. Like, so many other people would just say, it's the editing's fault. It's someone else's fault. I think that's the difference, though.
But maybe that's my own inner, guilt.
Maybe, but at least then it steered you on the right path.
There was no other, yeah. I mean, I couldn't see another way out. I couldn't, I couldn't sleep at night. If I'd come out guns blazing and saying, oh, I don't know what happened in there. It was crazy. It was such an alien environment. Ooh, who was that person? That's not the truth. That's not the case. And I wouldn't be able to live myself had I played it that way.
But that is the difference, because
You're trying to give me more credit than I deserve, I think. You're being very lovely about it. And I'm like, ugh.
I just know that, look, it's interesting because my favourite topic or areas is the fall of social media types and how this has been a new thing and how someone
pylon culture.
Yeah. Do you remember that case of that lady who was going to South Africa? She's not by no means an influencer. Maybe she had a couple thousand followers or something like that. And the joke was around saying she was going to South Africa and she's like, I hope I don't get AIDS or something terrible. Right. And so, it was bad.
That is just...
You wouldn't say it in public, right?
I wouldn't say that that under my breath.
So anyway, she put it under a hashtag. And so people found it, and she was on a flight. And in the time for the international flight from New York to Cape Town, she'd lost her job, this has started trending on Twitter. This woman's life was ruined. And in a lot of cases, people just don't admit that they did wrong.
Did she not admit that she did wrong?
I can't remember the specifics with that one, but there are other notable examples. I remember Sam Harris talked about this on his podcast. He talked about it with a psychologist, and there's been many high-profile cases. But it's fascinating with the way that we have social media now and how people can pile on like that. It's intense.
Yeah, I mean, I copped it pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. And I think even in hindsight now, looking back, there was some really, really dark days. Really dark days. And it was pretty brutal. I'm talking bringing in my sick mum into the gags, paparazzi stalking me, sunbaking toplet. It was bad.
Yeah.
But even, I still think that if it happened today, it would be it'd be a whole different level.
It would be on steroids.
And I do worry, and that's why I sort of have taken it upon myself to become this kind of martyr figure for this new generation that are coming up, because I see these young, naive, fame-hungry people go on shows like Married at First Sight and The Bachelor, and I just think, oh, you just don't know what you're getting yourself into. You're not being prepared. No one's warning you. You're not thinking about the future. You're so focused on right here in front of you that you're not thinking about here. And yeah, it worries me because I know what it's like and how awful it can be, and they're just not prepared for it.
And I think that's why if you wrote a book called Misunderstood, it'd be super interesting. I would 100% read that.
Thank you. Okay, Misunderstood. That's a good working title.